morning, afternoon, or night to whichever day you decide to watch this live. I am your host, username underscore Intel, here joined by Megalaz, and we are here with the intermediate week 3 Exodus versus MI6. How are you doing, Megalaz?
I'm doing just fine, ready to watch this game because this game really is gonna pretty much decide who's the number two team or possibly even the number one team in this division. So it's gonna be really good to see.
I'm immensely excited to see how these teams go out. Both of them have had a bit of internal kind of changes going around. MI6 just signed Wooly, a player who was on Geometric down in the novice division. No, well, not a player, but a coach. So it's interesting to see, as well as Exodus have kind of been a bit more hit or miss recently. We've seen them have some high moments. We've seen them have some low moments. So I think when going into Lijiang Tower, they have the ability to kind of show some new talent.
I mean, yeah, definitely. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. You can stick with the standard rush. But with this new talent bringing in, maybe you feel more confident to try out a different composition, something of your very own. But either way, I feel like both these teams are going to bring it today. Neither wants to earn their first loss of the season here today, but I mean, someone's going to have to, right? They can't both walk away from this undefeated. I don't think there's going to be a 19 map draw situation here.
I think the farthest they can technically go to is like a map 7, which has happened before, and I would really hope that doesn't happen on such a casual week 3. They just immediately go to it. But I am extremely excited. I think when talking about Lijiang Tower, it's one of I think the most popular maps that people play. Besides from, actually, it is just flat out I think the most popular control map.
I mean, yeah, it's almost kind of like that Kings Row esque map, but for Koth, where everybody thinks of it. Nobody has a problem with it. Li Zhang, you know the rollouts, you know the lineups, you know exactly what is good on each and every map. Even if you're down in like silver, people know exactly what you need to run, right? So it's just always a map that kind of showcases the raw mechanical skill because you're not going to be able to invent a brand new strat that's going to catch the other team off guard because that map is just kind of so set in stone at this point. You're going to go to control center, you'll probably see the Reinhardt with the Sigma, some Junkrat. You'll go to the night market, you'll see the Symmetra TP onto point. Whichever team gets there first, the other team has to kind of counter pick off that. And it's just the only kind of question mark, I guess you could say, is like going to Garden. You could run the Pharah, you could keep running that Symmetra. That's kind of where some variance likes to come in. But also, I mean, on all 3 points, if you have a good Wrecking Ball player on your roster, we've seen how impactful Wrecking Ball can be at pretty much any level. So if you have somebody who can play it to that high level, it really can just pay you dividends on any and all maps.
Oh, I definitely agree. I feel like most of kind of those compositions really focus on kind of coordination, and these teams sometimes struggle. I don't know. I feel MI6 they have a bit more of a handle down, but we've sometimes seen Exodus. They kind of split up at times, or just never truly focus on the same category, and that can be a really big issue when they want to run those ball competition, even if it's kind of mediocre or anything. But I really expect a lot more sim kind of strategies. I think sim recently. It's just been getting a lot more playtime. I don't know. She's always been good, but not to this level.
Well, yeah, it's one of those things where not even really out of the goats patch, but just buff after buff came through for her. We gave her the 25 additional HP, the extra speed on the turrets, as well as her damage from her beam, just always constantly being buffed up and up. And so Symmetra has kind of become this very high impact hero. Most of the time when these rush comps kind of started, you would see the Kree. Now you're seeing it switch over to the Sim, but because of playing the Symmetra in those rush comps, now you're seeing the power she can provide, the mobility she can provide to a team. Also the amount of safety it can provide. The turrets to slow down and engage, as well as the teleporter to potentially get a diveable support just out of harm's way. I mean, it's just truly amazing what just that hero can do, and it just depends on how you play around her as well, because there is ways to shut her down, but it's not all too effective, especially when she can just charge off of shields, get that ammo back, get that high charge, and just beam people down left, right, and center.
That's what makes her most annoying, I think. It's just the fact that you can try to like block as much damage as you want, but just her immense pressure. Once she builds up that charge, everyone just wants to start walking into you, and there is just nothing you could do comparably. So as these teams are getting ready, I kind of feel, what are your really expectations going out for these teams? What do you feel is kind of the long run with kind of the vague information that we've been given?
I mean, as you said, both these teams are experimenting with some switch ups. You know, you have like a new coach in, you have a new support player in here and there. So I think ultimately you kind of have to go back to basics, especially for a match like this where you know you're going up against, you could argue, an equal level opponent on both sides. You want to kind of default to something. You don't want to try to reinvent the wheel, get way too creative, because it's not a match where you need to do that. You can just definitely get your plans in place, just rely on your mechanics, and hopefully that can carry you through. But I mean, I would start somewhere. You know, Simple Rush, as we all know, is just kind of the name of the game right now, simply because it's so easy. You get 6 people, you run something down, you rinse and repeat, you use your ults. And if I see any of these teams like vary off of that, I will be interested to see why and if it's effective.
Definitely see the kind of idea going in. I think my expectations when it comes to both of these teams is what new ideas might they try? I don't have it. I haven't been seeing much experimentation, but that's kind of what you're looking for in these teams. The moment you start experimenting, you may be able to catch these teams off guard. And I think that's just what I've been looking out for. I've been watching a lot of Overwatch League lately and re-seeing all the Symmetra plays. It's just kind of been giving me a little taste to see new ideas.
I mean, yeah, and if you even want to compare this to Overwatch League, you know, they have their tournament going on right now, and we've been seeing a ton of Pharah be extremely impactful, and they're not even on the newest patch that nerfed a lot of hit scan. So is there potential for a Pharah meta to kind of arise because of all of these hit scan nerfs and stuff that has come through rather recently, you know? And that might be the opportunity one of these teams needs. It just kind of depends if you have the right player who can play that comfort pick, right? Because even if something, you know, let's say tomorrow they buff Farah that way all of her rockets one shot or something crazy like that, right? It wouldn't really impact your team all too much unless you know you have somebody who can play the Farah already. So it's all about getting the right meta as well as, you know, having the pieces ready for whenever that comes up. And I mean, hopefully both of these teams are flexible. From what we've seen, they are somewhat flexible, at least in the DPS roles. You know, nobody's kind of one tricking, as well as with the substitutions that they can make. Everybody seems to kind of be open to anything. So hopefully, as you said, they do have some interesting tricks up their sleeves.
Yeah, I can truly expect a kind of Pharah meta to pop out here. Pharah definitely does have a better play kind of against this, but Exodus does have McCree, and I don't know how much you know about McCree, but his name is, I think, kind of all the ideas you need to start to understand. He's been a consistent hit scan and a special player, but we're on this specific point, and this has always been a Symmetra area, as well as a Pharah slash dive. I think this is kind of the expectation you've been looking for.
I mean, yeah, this is kind of what you grow to expect. You know, this is where Farah was run even when she was necessarily not in the best state in the world. As well as, you know, there's different strats with the Sim TP. You can TP directly into point. We've seen kind of Reaper metas also evolve here, where you just kind of put the Reaper inside the point and you hold out inside for as long as possible. Uh, Sombra always being a nice impactful hero here. I feel as though the McCree pick from McCree, like obviously, you know, in the name, maybe you get that little bit of a boost, but I don't know. I feel like McCree is a little bit too vulnerable. You don't have all of the sight lines you want, but both these teams running out on an interesting little thing. We have Dive actually over here on one side coming out. The Winston hopefully not going to get burned down by this McCree, and Laser on the Sim just going to TP the team straight to point.
At Shadow Dive, it's definitely something interesting. Comparably to this bunker brawl style, we're going to be seeing them walking on the point, looks like, and is going to struggle. Goes down immediately close. Shinsei is going to be the one originally hacked, so they kind of want to back up. There's no damage that's going to be eaten, but they're still going to be taking the fight immediately to the dive composition. They have no way to kind of break in. There's so much damage poking them through that And is just struggling to kind of make some dives or initiation. But Exodus, they don't want to walk in. They're still giving a lot of respect comparably to MI6. The point is controlled, but we're going to see the charge come out, not being able to find much, but they do make themselves some space. The immortality gets built, and Marnik pops the coalescence. Comparably, Kree is able to find out Roy while the shatter is committed. They are down a couple, so it looks like Exodus just aren't going to be able to get much because MI6 are here and they are ready.
I mean, to be fair, you only dedicated Shatter there for the side of Exodus, right? So it's not all lost in there. You traded Shatter for Coalescence. Now you're going to have to worry about this Primal that you probably should track. No, Andrew has online. But you're going to come into this with your own sim wall. You can TP straight back into the point as well as the Deadeye just to create so much space. But like I said, this Primal, if you're trying to go over a bridge or anything like that, it could get deadly.
Yeah, look, they're gonna use that sim wall to give themselves some space because of the TP, but that sound barrier is gonna allow them to start working forward. The Diva Bomb may go a bit far out, but it pressures people around. We're gonna see the remake go in, but it looks like Roy and Swift are gonna be the ones getting the original picks. Monarch is able to find out Laser while Wooly finishes off Shinsei as well.
And now is kind of where you might need to see a little bit of a swap up. Maybe no longer the Symmetra as we're seeing Laser go over to the Reaper. Perfectly timed. The Reaper is phenomenal for this comp, right? Even if you're getting hacked by Roy on the Sombra, you know, you're still able to do a lot as Reaper. Those shotguns do not deal less damage when you're hacked, I can assure you. And it's now going to force Fifi on the Diva to kind of use that defense range just a whole lot more. And they're initiating with a Deadeye pretty early.
But comparably, not only does that EMP Death Blossom finish them off, but that sound barrier gets committed at the end.
I mean, committing that sound barrier is pretty much the only wrong play from that. As now we're seeing a full composition switch come out from Exodus. We're seeing them go over to the Moira Lucio. They have the Winston themselves, but it resets their ult economy pretty hard when they have to do that, because now it's going to be this Coalescence versus the Diva Bomb, and I favor the Coalescence in that fight 10 times out of 10.
Look, it's already coming out. The hack goes on. I should say, yeah, it's a Diva Bomb. Not going to be able to pop it out. The Coalescence does get hacked out, but it looks like Fifi's able to find out free. That Diva Bomb's coming out. It's going to be going down to the ground, and it manages to get a 2K. Shinsei bringing the advantage back for the side of Exodus.
I mean, you know, at the 12th hour, you find that Diva Bomb coming up clutch, especially because the Monkey wasn't there, right? Andrew died very early in the fight. No bubble to try to stop that damage or anything of the sort, and so now you're very close to your own Coalescence, and there's no real ult you have to worry out on the other side, besides, you know, possibly that Primal getting built up and Fifi's bomb, but the bomb's gonna probably have to be used for an initiation, as they're seeing now.
And now, look, that commitment's gonna be there, but McCree's able to find out Roy, so there's no fear of any kind of hack trying to stop them out, but it does have the Primal Rage. Never mind. I'm sorry. It looks like Yo is going to be able to get that 2K boop and force everyone on the side of MI6 to retreat.
Yes, indeed. And now you have to start looking at your win cons for the next fight, right? Because MI6 has quite a few online. You have the Death Blossom again. You maybe want to save that for EMP, but Roy been kind of slow at building up the second EMP. Only 50 some odd percent. Potentially the Primal for Andrew can be used to initiate, maybe create space for Roy to build that, but you're going to have to worry about the Deadeye for McCreely, and it's already being pulled.
Oh, the Coalescence combined with the High Noon gives them so much room to walk in, especially because they're trying to find out the Monkey, so And is just going to retreat for the time being. But look at Roy already in their backline. They is getting spotted a tiny bit. We're going to see that dive finally committed in, combined with the Coalescence, not moved off the map, but the Death Blossom is there, not being able to find out much. The copied Death Blossom is going to help out, just kind of space things in, especially with that sound barrier, but these teams are fairly even. Wooly's going to pop it out now. That's going to give them a lot more sustain comparably to Exodus as they continue moving in. No one's really able to find a target, but And is going to be popping out the Primal Range first. He's looking for a target. He's able to get a 2K off of Axel and Laser. This is giving them the advantage. This is his last fight. Switcher's able to find out Dad while And comes back, manages to find out Sensei. This is absolutely insane because it's giving them the advantage, and with McCree gone, there's really only one person left touching the point, and the Hack and Dive are just going to help commit, so the Reaper may be trying to touch, but it's going to be someone else. The ball coming in. The EMP does come out, doesn't really manage to hit much, but Dad is going down. Laser and the Diva Bombs comparably coming in, looking. Shinsei able to find out Fifi while Laser finds out Roy. This is kind of giving them the even advantage. The Death Blossom coming in, just trying to melt them down, but most of it's going to be Ian while Wooly manages to find out Axel. The Reaper's having a 1v1, but McCree is able to focus down And because he had no peels, and we see Laser being able to finish off Swifter. The rest of Exodus turning back to the fight, bringing it around.
If I am Roy, I am so sad because Roy used that EMP almost as a celebration ult, thinking the round was over. Did not hack a single person. It allowed the ball to stall. It allowed Laser to come back in, and now Laser has Death Blossom, and this is looking like the absolute potential throw of the century from Roy on this first round of Li Jiang.
Now they use that Coalescence combined with Laser's Death Blossom. Look at that, manages to find out Monarch. The rest of the team are just trying to make their way to the point and stall, but the focus fire from Exodus has been clean so far, and I think we're going to be having to give them the victory for this first point.
I mean, don't get me wrong, phenomenal on Laser to clutch that out, as well as Dad on the Wrecking Ball to stall that, but I mean, Roy really just kind of handed that to them for free. You celebrate a little bit too early, you get a little too cocky, and that's kind of what happens. You kind of just throw a round away where you had it locked up in the bag. But it was just one round, you can't dwell on it forever. You got to pick it up and move on.
Now, this is what
And
happens when you return back to like a silver type of team, you know?
mhm, absolutely. As there's some interesting pause happening here. It turns out Axel on his team is going to have a little bit of ping issues, so say okay.
It happens most likely, and for those of you worrying, the VTuber model was just there for a second, so you're gonna get a forehead for a while. Don't feel like taking my headphones off to put them back on. Either way, I guess we have a moment to kind of talk about this map, and then if we still have enough time, we could talk back. Axel's having two ping issues. That's their fault. But what is really your expectation? Both of these teams, look at that. It's kind of a brawl comparably against a Reaper versus a Junkrat.
Yeah, I mean, both are in spawn, so they could still kind of switch. I'd be very surprised to see the laser actually run out on the Reaper. Junkrat is so effective on this map, especially because both teams are, as you see, are opting in to run the double shield. The double shield's becoming very popular on this map because the Sigma pretty much can do everything the Diva needs to, but he gets that little bit of extra eating of the spam right at the start that Diva can't get because he has both the shield and the kinetic grasp. And it's going to be interesting. Yep. And we're seeing Laser, interestingly, over to the Symmetra now. And it's going to be probably a battle for this white room right here. I'm very excited to see how this goes. As always, it's kind of the RNG of whose Junkrat spam can get picks first.
I've never heard something more accurate in my life as they move into the server room. Exodus actually going to be taking it over. Seems that MI6 just want to give it up, give them some time to breathe, but they have control over the point at the moment. The Symmetra being able to just stick, and it looks like the Fire Strike's going to be able to find out McCree. That's giving them more than enough room to start taking the confidence, to start walking in. We see Ann just already being able to kind of pressure them out. They want to give respect. Without that Junkrat, they feel so unconfident taking this fight.
I mean, yeah, you need that amount of spam damage, right? As right off the spawn again, McCree goes down, and they're still choosing to fight this, it seems.
Yeah, it's a bit unfortunate, so they're going to continue in. That window may help them out because Laser's able to finish off Roy, so now it's somewhat even. But Fifi is going to be able to find Laser while Swifted finishes off Dad. The Sigma's on the off angle, just going to be melted down. Shinsei is going to be regretting that later on.
I mean, yeah, you fought that in the 5v6. You got the pick to try to tie it up, but it just wasn't enough. And, like I was trying to allude to before, the Junkrat spam is so much more important beyond just, trying to kill people, right? There's two shields in your face. Between the two shields, I believe it's like 2,500 shielding as well as Sigma's kinetic grasp. There's so much damage that needs to be done to break down these barriers, and it's just unfortunate that you can't do it all by yourself.
And now, look, they're using that window. We see some switches go on to Exodus. The charge comes, but the immortality is melted down. They are going to be taking their time. Wait a couple seconds. McCree able to throw out the sensory arrow. So the gravitic flux, they know where people are. They're finding both of the supports, but the immortality is placed back. Willie's going to go down. He manages to save out his tank, though, who wasn't really pressured at all. Roy dangerously going low, but they're still taking this brawl. That wall going to be able to protect them for a bit longer. Comparably, the sound barrier is going to be helping them move in. McCree and Laser being able to find out target that it seems the passiveness is going to be paying them, but Roy wants to use that rib tire. Hope he can find someone. Don't expect too much. Axebax was able to use the immortality. He's going to save himself.
Yes, indeed, and that felt like a tire where you clicked it as soon as your team started dying, and you realized as you were clicking that it was just too late. And, you're seeing this Hanzo McCree comp now. You're seeing it kind of pay dividends simply because the Kree was able to get the off angles and do exactly what a Kree does best. Take off angles, take pop shots, and make sure to secure those kills. And so now you're going to be looking towards this Earth Shatter from Dad to probably get a lot of value, as well as Axel with the early window could be the difference maker.
Look at that, they're gonna pop it, but immediately the rotation and split going on to the side of MI6. They do place that TP, trying to mess with their minds, but they're gonna now pop their own window. Dad is gonna take the off angle, managed to use the shatter, but it really only hits Fifi, so the sound barrier from Wooly is gonna be helping them move in. They managed to find Axel, and yo, that's a bit unfortunate. Both of the support line for Exodus are going down, and even while that dragon manages to get Monarch, the rest of them are just gone.
Yes, indeed, and the cleanup comes through perfectly for the side of MI6 as they're going to be taking up towards 80% here. They're getting into final fight territory. Last fight, But it all is not lost just yet for Exodus. They have the Gravitic Flux, they have the Deadeye. That right there is a potent combo. The question is, do you have time to get your Kree in a good off angle? And I don't think you do. You have to get to point with 8% to go.
A little bit of a mix, and they're going to be relying on it, popping not only the Gravitic Flux, but the High Noon. He's sitting there, and he's taking his shots, being able to hit out, too. The point is now in overtime, but MI6 are doing their best to try to stall this out and maybe get some value out of it, but it looks like McCree and Laser are going to be shutting people down way hard. That Hanzo was a bigger advantage than I truly expected.
Yes, indeed, but it's also just kind of big, the damage that can come from Sigma's Gravitic Flux, right? You don't have the beat drop to try to live through it, so you're just tanking damage. Everybody cut directly in half, almost like Thanos. And so the upside being all you have is this window, right? Axel's going to have to get some value out of this window because you're going to have to live through a Flux, a Shatter. It's all coming out from the side of MI6.
For ultimates, they do get stunned out of the Gravitic Flux, but that Shatter is absolutely landing down. They're able to pop the sound barrier last minute, but they've already lost 2 people on the team. Comparatively, now they've lost Axel. Those 4 ultimates were absolutely massive, but McCree's trying to even things out. He is being pressured, and it's going to be found out by Fifi while Shinsei's on the point, but he just gets Fire Strike, and I think we're going to a point 3 in a good second, but it looks like Exodus want to try to bring it back like they did before. Dad is on the point. He's on that Wrecking Ball. He's looking to stall this out as much as he can, but he's going to be eventually burst it down. So, Yo on the Lucio's trying to touch, but he goes a little too far around, dies, and it looks like we are going to that 3rd point.
Yes, indeed, the 3rd point. Not exactly the cleanest, but at the end of the day, MI6, they saved their ults. They knew exactly when they had to use them, and they just kind of ult dumped into that last fight. The Shatter could not be understated. Andrew absolutely being able to weave through the other Rhine shield and make it massive. Now we're here on the night market, and it's just going to be the Battle of Symmetras, right? Unless there's about to be a swap, I actually think we're going to see Exodus opt out of the Symmetra strat, not wanting to take point first, and instead just keep poking with this Hanzo Kree. Oh, nope, as I say that. Alright.
Yeah, they like messing with us. But
they prove us wrong at the end of the day, but yeah, so it's just going to be the Symmetra. I think the difference maker here could be Swifters on this Doomfist. We see Doomfist always get a lot of value here, as well as BP on the Winston. Lots of cleave damage early in Swifters.
My heart immediately punches Laser in the face, and now look, the Immortality maybe bursted down on the side of MI6, but they're continuously moving forward without a threat in the world. Not only does the Monkey's bubble and dive help them move in, but having that Doomfist's pressure, it does so much.
I mean, yeah, but also it's just, it cannot be understated how nice it is that before the fight even begins, Swifters just punches through the TP, kills the opposing Reaper, which is 90% of that front-facing damage that the Winston might have to worry about, right? And so the Winston's cleave damage is just way too big, and now you're able to hold aggressively and stop them from TPing.
Yeah, now it's just the brawl committed. Dad's taking that space. While the Monkey goes into the back line to kind of split them up, but they've all rotated together. The window's going to be invested while the Shadow gets committed. It's going to be able to hit 3, and it looks like Dad's going out for some milk while the rest of MI6 cleans up Exodus.
I mean, absolutely massive Shatter, as well as just the positioning from the side of MI6. You know, you had your Doomfist taking high ground, you had your Winston not really in the front line, but still coming from above and doing that cleave damage onto your back line. Like, there's just so much you have to pay attention to, and the Zarya bubble, I don't think is enough to carry Orion, as Ryan's knocked to the low ground.
Oh no, he gets split from the team. Fifi managing to block the rest of Exodus out. And Dad, once again, is going to be gone for a pack of cigarettes while the rest of Exodus just have to kind of stay back.
And it's really interesting that they chose to kite to that high ground for the side of Exodus, because you know that's where Swifters was playing last time, right? You know the Doomfist was up there, but you didn't even scout for it, and that's what caused Dad on the Reinhardt to get split off so hard. Now looking towards this next fight, this has got to be your fight, because you have a lot of ults to burn.
Dad punches himself right into the Fire Strike with the windows. That combination's immediately going to shut them down, but now they're using the Simwa to try to protect themselves. Shadow's going to go in. It really only hits Fifi, but that's enough for Laser to have commitment to pop in. So Wooly uses the Sound Barrier, and they're going to be countered, but the Shatter and managing to hit out Dad. The Death Blossom looking to even things up, combined with the Graviton Surge, is going to help them out, and Swifter is swiftly going back to spawn.
I mean, I'm very happy that they were able to win that fight, but Exodus, they invested everything, all 6 ults down the drain, and there's now a window for Monarch on the other side that could provide immense value, especially if Andrew can get some good fire strikes through it. And Swifters on this Doomfist have been so lethal already with a Meteor Strike. Who knows what target he could be going for?
Definitely see what you mean. Now look, they place that TP behind, but they're immediately going to break it. However, it looks like that's not really going to affect them much. Fifi going inside the backline combined with Swifters. They force out that immortality, slamming in between them. Paxel's going to be found out. Well, he's able to boop off Yo while Laser gets finished off. And Dad is really the last person who could kind of hold this point. So now it's 90-second. Shinsei and McCree kind of even it up, but Shinsei goes down.
Yes, indeed, and I feel like the McCree's getting staggered here late. It's going to be the Lucio who's going to try to touch. Should be able to get an overtime. Oh, the Doomfist stops the touch. And,
Yeah.
you know, just despite almost throwing that first round away, MI6 able to take it 2-1 here.
I definitely think MI6 are looking a little stronger comparatively to Exodus. I think Exodus are kind of executing things a lot cleaner at times, but I don't know. It just feels like MI6 have the upper hand when they stop trolling.
I mean, yeah, they definitely have the upper hand whenever, there's nothing crazy going on and they can actually execute their plans. But also, I think it's just kind of a comp difference, right? We know the Symmetra's good on that map. We know the Winston's good for the cleave. We know the Doomfist is good. Whereas you just kind of ran a Symmetra and were like, yeah, this should be fine. You didn't really seem to think too deeply about it for Exodus. But, maybe you don't have Li Jiang quite under your belt yet. You don't have all of the strats nailed down. That's A-okay. Because you still got 2 more maps minimum to prove that you got something here.
Definitely agree. It's still more than enough of a situation to Exodus don't have to feel worried about. They took a point, so it's not like we can say it was one-sided. They have more than enough room to improve, especially for the next map. But I kind of just want to say, when it comes to the tank lines right now, I feel like Shinsei and Fifi are somewhat equal. They're at least putting up a decent fight against each other. But and Dad, they almost feel opposite. And it's just been getting so much value on any type of tank he's playing. We saw in the Monkey, the Primal Ragers are being able to shut people down, or he's just going for these shatters, hitting them. Dad's not always able to block them, and it may be a future issue.
I mean, absolutely. But also, I mean, if we rewind the clock back to that first round, right? When Dad was still on the Reinhardt, but we didn't really see any crazy shatters or anything coming out then. When Andrew wasn't even on a Reinhardt to counter, it was just the Monkey. So it's just nice to know that Andrew's kind of been not only the better Reinhardt, but just the better main tank overall. It's, maybe it could be a little bit of extra support going his way. Who really knows at the end of the day? But, Dad's probably going to have to be the one to step it up to keep Exodus in this series because right now, if you didn't throw that round, MI6, I mean, you're up 2-0 and it's kind of dominant.
Yeah, but who knows? Maybe they'll ping us saying we didn't throw it. They just got lucky to stalls. But that's just for everyone to kind of BM about. It's the funny part of every type of game.
Mhm.
I do also want to say, I feel it's more of I feel that the support line of Exodus almost kind of are splitting themselves off from comparably to the rest of the team. I don't know. It's just Axel Paxo is always in these positions where he's being dived out, and it's just kind of costing them a couple fights.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And your Baptiste is someone who cannot fall. Your Baptiste has to be the one to stay alive because not even just the window, not even just the insane healing, immortality field alone is just the reason you have to keep your Baptiste in the fight. That can completely change the tide of a fight. And it's just by clicking one little button. And definitely, as you said, Axel Paxel has been dove left, right, and center, whereas Monarch on the other side has played a really reserved Baptiste, staying alive, perfect lamps, perfect windows, exactly when the team needs it. And I mean, it could just be, once again, that kind of main tank pressure that Andrew is exerting and is kind of getting to the supports, and Dad's not able to counter it exactly as perfectly.
I see what you mean. And while we get a side swap, so we're going to be seeing MI6 on the defense comparatively to Exodus now on the attack. We're going to Eichenwald. Eichenwald's very much one of my favorite, if not the favorite S-score map. And once again, it's kind of one of those points where you get to see a little bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely. You get, some different kind of compositions. You see Torbjorn on point A, as well as the Pharah potentially, Echo even. Going to point B, it's all about that high ground, right? So that's where you can kind of roll out with your hit scans, your Ashes, your McCrees, even your Widowmakers. Or you can try to truck it out on a low ground, but it's always kind of to your advantage, whether you're attacker or defender, to make sure you have position on that high ground before you really ever worry about the cart. And then once you're in point C, you kind of have to put the Pharaoh away. You've got that roof on top of you. You're really enclosed, and we see characters like Bastion get extreme value in that third point. So it'll be interesting to see what these teams have set in store for us on Eichenwald. But I'm just hoping to see a little bit of variance. Maybe Dad's not too comfy on the Reinhardt. Maybe switch it up, go something like an Orisa. Run the double shield. That's always kind of an option. It's just always an option in Overwatch. The double shield being way too potent and way too stally in any situation.
Phil, I've also been seeing a bunch of other teams kind of run double shield when not only comes to the defense, but the attack of Eichenwald. And it's always brought kind of a question mark to my mind. So could you like light it up for me? Why do you think teams may be warning that idea?
Warranting the double shield, I mean, it's just kind of the amount of stall, right? Because Eichenwald's one of those maps where you don't see the point A hold happen all too often until you're in overtime rounds. So you may not be looking to even hold point A as a defending team, right? And what Double Shield does, it allows you to just burn out the clock. Each character in Double Shield lives for so long. The Orisa with the Fortify, the Sigma with his entire kit, the Baptiste Immortality Field to keep everybody alive on it. It's just so much stall potential. And we didn't even list off the DPS. If you have something like a Far in the Sky that just can constantly pester and annoy, it's just a phenomenally solid comp to just burn time off that clock. Because if you're going into second on this map as an attacker and you have like 6 minutes in the bank, you're feeling confident and you get so much time to redo the attacks on that point, especially with the times you have to take high ground, whether it be through castle, you kind of rotate up a staircase or something. You want to burn that time bank as a defender. That's always your number one goal.
Yeah, I do like to see kind of MI6, they're on the double shield. That's going to be kind of a bit more protective while we see Exodus on the dive.
Yes, indeed. And this dive, it's, the kind of dive you want to see here days in 2021 because you have the Brigitte to protect the Ana. That way your Ana isn't getting focus fired. Your Ana pretty much just kind of farms Nano off your Winston. And the whole goal of this composition is just Nano the Winston, send the Winston in with all the resources, but I guess your Ana can just fall over to Roy. That is an option too.
Yeah, Axel Paxel's gonna be picked off during the kind of rotation. Same with Shinsei. We're trying to... Oh, not Dad too. Roy, let it rest. Let him live as they're all trying to split up. Even Laser gets picked off. That's, what was it, a 3-4K solely from Roy? But Fifi's gonna steal out the Brigitte.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And, being able to get those kills on the McCree especially, I mean, look at that. You're already 68% to a Deadeye. Deadeye is deadly to a dive comp because once you've all initiated, used all your cooldowns, then McCree just gets to say it's high noon and all of a sudden you're like a fish out of water caught. And we're seeing these swap-ups from Exodus now. They're going to the Ashe with the Mercy Pocket for it. I'm not really sure if this is the answer because I feel like the Torbjorn spam damage is going to be way too annoying, especially onto a player like Axel on this Ana.
I 100% agree. More importantly, they're kind of just using that damage boost. I mean, the Mercy for damage boost. But they have angles. They have poke. And look at that. While they break out Swifter's turret, Dad and Shinsei are taking in so much burst damage. Dad's going to be going out first. That pool's combined manages to melt down Laser. And while the bubble does enable the res onto Dad, the rest of his team and him just want to back up, retreat, give themselves some breathing room.
Yes, indeed. So, like I was saying at the start of this, the whole point of the dive comp is you want to farm Nano as quickly as possible. But because of Dad going down way too quickly, it's only just now getting online after half of their attack has been burnt for Exodus. But you do have the Nano online. That is the silver lining. But you're going to have to go into this Gravitic Flux. You can just pick up the monkey and not worry about it as the monkey goes in.
Oh, they use the window and the Gravitic Flux. They slam down on the monkey, and Dad has no room to play the game with that nano boost. Dynamite does take a nice angle. They're able to hit a couple people comparably, but now they just have to back up. And they've also lost Kree, so that stagger's going to be a few more seconds longer.
Yes, indeed. But you can kind of look at this as a silver lining at Exodus. You just traded Nano for both Gravitic Flux, Deadeye, and Window. That's a 3-for-1 trade. Anybody who can do math will tell you how great that is. Granted, this Molten Core is going to be a little bit dicey for you to work around, but I mean, a grab Deadeye has done wonders for everybody, and the Mercy should be able to keep everybody alive with this Valkyrie.
As the high noon being used just to kind of make that space. The bow and cord, they just walk around it, so it's no issue. The Bob thrown on point is going to be able to help finish out Swifters. While the Bongo's there, they're looking to put in some extra damage. Everyone's kind of just hiding in the small room while Roy's managing to find out Kree, but it looks like Fifi's going to be traded out. And is going to be able to find out not only Shinsei, but Laser comparably with the rally. That's going to give them some extra armor.
And while it is annoying to have both Fifi and Swister fall for you in that fight, it doesn't matter. The person who matters in this double shield composition is your Baptiste. Monarch being able to stay alive through all of that, that's healing. That's the immortality field. It's just ridiculous. And then Andrew being able to put down the bongo, just damage amping everybody who's still alive, turning that fight. And now look, you have Window and you have Deadeye again with only 20 seconds left on the clock, and this grab's still yet to be used.
Now they have to be a bit more careful and patient. Look at that, the Roy and Monarch combining their ultimates. So the rest of Exodus, they want to take their time. They don't want to try to poke. And Shin's dad is going to move in. Watch Shinsei pops the grab. They're able to find two being enabled by the immortality, but they're anti, so they're not going to be saved afterwards. Dad's still up, but he's dangerously low. He's going to be having that primal range in a good second. Exodus now have the advantage. They've been looking for the Flux while the monkey's inside their back. Pops that primal range and is looking for Monarch. Willie is going to be picked off by Shinsei in this fight, while we see the tank plant just stuck inside of their own respective cubbies. Monarch is unable to really play this game too. Just look at him finally being able to come back, but it's too late to heal Fifi, and eventually that's just going to cost them the point.
Yes, indeed, but the double shield comp did exactly what it wanted to. It burned off all of the time. You only have 2 minutes and 20 seconds, which on other escort maps to push into point B, you know, you're like, okay, 2 minutes, we got something. That's maybe 2 good pushes here on Eichenwald, as another pause is being called. Probably some internet issues once more.
Yeah, I mean, in the area that I'm living in, it was storming a bit ago, so maybe some people are having issues. It's understandable. Happens to all of us. But I kind of can you how do you think the double shield is really gonna I kind of because I wanted to think of an idea of
Mhm.
what really is going on while I was reading the chat, so I got distracted for a second. But what is kind of your interpretation? They're going to be running back out on the double shield possibly for this defense continuously, but I don't know how strong it is when there's so much high ground.
I mean, you have to position yourself on high ground. So, I mean, maybe that's what you're going for. You want the early positioning and you want to kind of deal with it, right? But Andrew is close to that. Bongo is 93% right now, so maybe that's your motivation, is just you're trying to get Bongo out. Sigma, as weird as it is pretty much a diva minus boosters, right? And you're never really minding keeping the Sigma in most situations whenever you're switching comps. So, you know, maybe combined with the Bongo, you're gonna build up a flux or something, or maybe you're on Sigma because you're on Sigma. It's nothing really lost. um, Swifter's on the Torbjorn, though. I feel like that's going to get really rough on this high ground. You know, there's no real good place to put your turret that's not going to get instantly destroyed, which means the turret's not getting value, which means you have to find value yourself. And with the Rivet gun and the way it arcs, for its kind of spread pattern, I guess you could say, it's not good for shooting directly below you, which you're going to have to do. So maybe swap up the Torbjorn, even though you're close to Molten Core. But other than that, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world, especially because there's no good way for Exodus's comp to take high ground. They kind of, despite having the Winston, they're not able to just jump straight up there with the rest of their comp. They're going to have to take the staircase like normal human beings and go up that way. So it's going to be interesting to see what each team wants to do, whether Exodus is just going to try to stick to the cart or maybe attempt that high ground or maybe even reverse it, right? Maybe MI6 just goes to cart as the defenders and they just sit on it and wait for the attackers to come to them. They can have high ground all they want. It's truly any multitude of options for both these comps.
I think I kind of see them sticking onto that Torbjorn. I feel just not only is Molten Core really powerful, I think it would have been a lot stronger if he didn't place it under the bridge. Everyone just walked around it. But having that Torbjorn is not only a pressure onto anyone that tries to kind of poke the DPS, have to focus it down, but nobody wants to be hammer killed, you know? And I feel like that's also a fear. Some people worry, they're like, oh no, he's gonna hammer kill me. Somebody focus the Torbjorn, and then everybody's focus is on him. But all jokes aside, I feel having that turret as kind of a distractor works. And maybe they don't have to play high ground, but rather just push themselves back.
I mean, yeah, you don't really have to play the high ground all too much, even though it's super important. As I was saying, and as you alluded to, you know, you don't have the real, like, neither of these comps really thrive from the high ground, right? But maybe McCreely on the defense would be able to get something going on that high ground. But other than that, because they're on offense, it's just kind of nobody really wants the high ground, but both teams need to contest it in fear of the other having it. So it kind of just boils down to this really weird fight.
I
Uh, it's just, it's very interesting.
Yeah, I definitely agree. These teams had different areas, and there's definitely more to see. However, we're going to be going to a quick pause while we wait to see what issues get solved, so stay tuned. Welcome back, everyone. Hope you had a nice break. Not only is the ping better, but family is out of the way, but nothing is more important than family, as Vin Diesel once told me. So, Megalaz, we're going back into the game. How do you feel?
I feel as though you just didn't have to bring up the Vin Diesel memes. I think I've seen enough of those on Twitter. But we are resuming where we left off. Of course, nothing's changed. The ash just falling over. because sometimes the Ash just wants to go back to spawn. Sometimes there's cool stuff to see in spawn, but going into this next fight, we're seeing MI6 hold this high ground and the Bongo on high ground as well. Just the insane amount. Oh, but that's a fat anti from Axel.
Yeah, on the bright side, they don't really have to worry about much, but that's scary, because imagine if they just started diving like they are now with the Valk and that anti-hit. They do pick off Fifi, and they have room to play, and does use the Bongo, but they've rotated all around the point, so there's not much to worry about now going onto the bridge. They want to try to take down MI6, and that shield bash isn't going to be helping out much. They do burst down Dad, so he's not going to be having much, while Shinsei gets Schwichter, so the High Noon gets invested. They get the support, and Laser is now going to be trying it out. He wants to do what they did. That payload's just getting free push just from the pressure of the High Noon, but now they really have nothing to worry about. They rotate themselves all the way across to the bridge while Roy is split away from them. And Swifters has the Molten Core, so if they want to, they could just melt it down. But McCree's able to shoot out Roy, win that duel, and the tank has come back. We see the Monkey now inside the backline, and the Bob gets thrown out comparably with the Molten Core. He's throwing it around just trying to find someone to melt, and the Monkey's being primal inside of it. Roy is going to be picked up by the Bob, and the Gravitic Flux slams down and helps them not only pick off the Bob, but Dad. So they've lost their tank, and now they've lost Swifter, so the fight is kind of in a staggered slow position. They have picks, but they seem to not want to give it up. Just look how Exodus Nano and Shinsei, he's gonna be the DPS now. Use the Graviton Surge, ends that immortality, and he's looking to get picked. He does get booped around, and there's so much healing that Wooly's able to build up his rally. Yeah, Dad has returned, and Wooly's just going right back down to the spawn room. They're looking to burst. They're not able to find too much, and that's where it's going back to the Shadow Realm where it belongs. Dad just looking to push a bit too forward. It's going to be pulled, stunned, and rocked. That's a bit unfortunate. The red behind the cart gets possible. Didn't think that was, and an anti managed to hit 3 people, so that immortality is going to be barely saving them. Roy, Swifters, and Roy being able to build things up, and it looks like Swifters is able to find another Molten Core from their back pocket, and that Mercy, well, they may have a gun, but it's not all too powerful.
I mean, that was just such an insane, chaotic, like 2-minute fight there, because they were just going back and forth. Neither team really wanted to give it up. Both teams felt it was winnable at all points, but in the end, MI6 gonna come out on top and get that hold on bridge, and it's not lost yet for Exodus, but now your back is starting to feel against the wall, just a little bit of pressure, because the bridge isn't the end of the map. It's not even that far into the map, especially once you get control of high ground like that. So it's kind of sort of puts all the pressure on you to get a good point A hold here, stall at least a bunch of time off the clock here. Otherwise, you could see MI6 start walking away with a 2-0 lead here.
100%, but I feel if you're Exodus, that's not the worst place to kind of be held. It's so close to the second point that the respawns are in their favor if anything happens, especially because they've been kind of interested to run dives, so they have really fast respawns to kind of get back. They could probably stagger themselves off to a victory while we see kind of MI6, they want to run out, and both of these compositions have traded in now.
I mean, yeah, as well as, Exodus, so far in this series at least, they've been proving clutch in the overtime situations, both on Lijiang and here now on Eichenwald. They've just been extremely clutch when it needs to happen. They're able to get the kills exactly where they need to be, and looking at this comp, the double shield on defense now, it's kind of like the switching of comps, right? As you said, they both running each other's comp, probably just a pop shot on Widow and then switching back to something else.
Look at that. Yeah, I do like how they run the Diva, but they're hearing a couple of those shots, so they switch out for Kree.
I mean, yeah, if you don't, the Widow is pretty much just to scout. You grapple up over the top, you see what you need to, and then you go for it. Go for whatever you need. I like the Kree pick here. It's just going to be all about breaking down these 2 shields from the tanks. Otherwise, it's just going to be way too much value, and the Kree's not going to be able to do anything.
So this is where the fight starts, and is going to be hit, but the dive is now commenced. Fifi able to find out, yo, that's a bit unfortunate, and the immortality gets used, so they're just trying to brawl in. Wooly is able to finish out Axel Paxel, and it looks like Swifter's really going to be the only one, besides from Ann, going down in the fight. Shinsei is still holding his ground while being shot from a Kree and a Moira, so Wooly's going to be the one to step in and finish it out. The Lucia, Wooly, just, my goodness, making sure to get these picks and secure the end. Everyone else on Exodus just has to back up, and that's not what you want.
Yeah, that was really quick, and now 5 minutes and 30 seconds on the time bank just to get to the end, not even the full end of point B, right? And Wooly getting those kills is actually pretty important because Wooly probably will have the beat online to counter the Gravitic Flux when Shinsei has it, because already a 68% for that Flux, as you can clearly see. I mean, this is starting to feel a little bit crazy, but we're seeing MI6, despite being on this dive comp, they're all walk through castle.
Yeah, look, that stun's gonna find Roy out of position. Was a bit too unsecured, and that Molten Core is gonna be starting to place down on the cart. It stops anyone from really moving in, from what it seems, so they're just gonna wait and mitt the poke. The Immortality is gonna be perfectly saving them while Kree is in their back. He's all the way on the stairs, so Monarch drops down and actually gonna start 1v1ing him, but he's gonna die in the process. So it's a bit unfortunate to see MI6 memeing into this extent.
I mean, I wouldn't even say that was memeing, right? They wanted to take the dive, and it's a common strategy to just leave the cart, go take your dive to try to secure high ground, but Exodus played that beautifully. You know, you used the window and rally when you had to, but you didn't overinvest your ultimates. You're still going to have both your tank ults and your Deadeye going to this next fight, and I think Deadeye is extremely impactful for this dive comp. You know, that single-handedly will just scare and zone the Winston. There's no nano to save him. It could force the primal extremely early when you don't want it. There's a lot of options here.
Yep, the high noon gets used early. It's looking for that Reaper who's on the low ground, but everyone else is on high, so this kind of wastes a bit of time, but it allows that payload to move as much as they want. Same with the Bongo. MI6 is doing an amazing job of taking their time. They're not like letting anyone do anything. That Gravitic Flux pops out and manages to hit Roy, who has the sound barrier and the high noon, but Fifi's able to find out Axapaxel, and Monarch's able to find out McCree. Now they're having to stall back while moving themselves as far as they can, but Dad's there with the Primal Rage looking to finish anyone off. Shinsei is split inside. The enemy's backline is going to be blasted off back to Jimmy Neutron's land, while we see Swifters possibly DCing as he just doesn't move and dies to lose Laser. McCree being able to find out but nobody's able to touch, and it seems that MI6 are going to be winning Eichenwald.
Yeah, indeed. I was worried that we were going to have another pause for Swifters there, but won the map before it could even be called for if there was an issue. And I think this Deadeye, if this is the one I'm thinking of at the least, was... Oh no, this is a different one. Play of the game still earned, but being picked up by the Flux was absolutely massive for Roy there, because being able to just kind of scare the Sigma into not following up on that Flux damage at all by just using the Deadeye, having the beat to sustain, making sure there was no worry about living. It was truly just kind of a perfect set play from MI6 and Exodus. They just reacted as you were supposed to, but in that situation, you just kind of lost to the set play.
Yeah, 100%. Exodus still not looking all too bad. A bit roughy around the edges, but we are going to be seeing a swap in. You all know Kemi, and they're going to be trying to play in for Exodus. Now, Kemi's always been a somewhat consistent player. He's been rated a bit here and there. I think Kemi's kind of a good addition. Exodus may be able to help, but we're going over to Escort. So, I don't know how much a DPS helps out in that area.
I mean, it depends on what escort map you're looking to and what Kemi has in the arsenal, right? Because you have, with your escort maps, so many different options and so many different ways to play, especially with Rialto, Gibraltar, and Route 66 being our map pool for uh, escort right now. I mean, Gibraltar, you've seen so much different stuff. You've seen the double bubble be successful there, as well as just the pure dive. We've seen Genji even work on that. Route 66, you kind of opt back into more of those hit scans, like your Ash or Widowmaker, the long range hit scans that can definitely cover stuff. And Rialto is just, it's always kind of been Rialto. You get to see echoes, there's so many places to hide, as well as long range hit scan again can thrive there. There's so many ways to just sit way out of the fight that nobody can get to you without investing an insane amount of resources. So there's definitely some impact that could be had, but when you're coming in an O2 series and you realize you're already at match point, I mean, there's pressure on you because you feel like you have to be the one to turn it around. So hopefully keep cool under that pressure, take it easy, because I do believe Exodus can still, turn out some map wins here at the very least. I don't believe it's all doom and gloom over for them just yet.
I think you make a very fair point. However, I hope you have your glasses on and a little cocktail as we move ourselves slowly down onto Rialto, as well as Dad and Kemi swapping on the board. So kind of a little bit of DPS style. Same with tanks. I don't know how much of a change that'll be because Dad has just been playing with Shinsei, and I feel like maybe they have a bit more synergy. So seeing Kemi try instead of anything else, It's gonna be a little interesting, maybe double off tank, but I'm hoping for a little too much.
I mean, it'll be it's interesting to say the least, as apparently it's actually just a swap back. It was a fake swap. Dad will remain on the main tank because even in a situation where you believe like Dad is a good DPS player, right? It does not speak very well to any team like from the outside looking in that you're willing to take your main tank player and put them on DPS and then throw traditionally a DPS player onto main tank. That's never really looked good for anybody. I'm looking at you, Florida Mayhem, when I say this. Switching a DPS over to main tank doesn't always, it's not the solution you want. Maybe you just kind of have to find what's wrong with your main tank, provide more resources, maybe help them out just a little bit more instead of expecting your main tank to do everything for you.
You make a lot of fair points. That call out felt sharp. So on Rialto, I kind of want to just hear your opinion about this. I think Rialto is one of those scary maps, especially when you're going in to kind of a lower 2-0. So we saw that on kind of Eichenwald. Exodus struggled to get that first point, and on Rialto, that first point could be very much a deadly disease when it comes to full hold. So what is really your interpretation that Exodus might try?
I mean, Exodus depends on what they. At the end of the day, any compositions you see these teams run, it's probably what they've practiced. Even if it's not necessarily the meta or maybe the most optimal thing in the world, it's just what they've practiced and what they've found success with in scrims. So you have to kind of look for that and kind of realize they're thinking that way. But with Rialto, it's honestly, it's one of those maps where I wish teams would go for a spawn hold more. If you try to hold very close on the defense, sure, you may lose that fight eventually, but it guarantees you get 3 fights on the defense, and that's kind of always something you want on these first points. Maps like Habana and stuff come to mind, but we're just going to run the double shield way back here for the side of MI6, and meanwhile, we're seeing this Hanzo from Kemi. I mean, Hanzo being impactful before in this series, I don't doubt it to do it again. It's just going to be interesting to see where the value will fall.
Hanzo is one of those heroes that people should deserve to get style points on just solely for how much headshots you can get at times. We see that MI6, they want to hold that higher ground, but they're aggressively moving back. It's almost they want to respect that brawl. They know that they can just be walked on, and Roy can take those angles. The moment they drop a shield, it's possible to be headshotted, and it's very uncomfortable to kind of play in those positions. So we see Dad rotate onto the point. He wants to be able to help his team move a bit forward while the rest of the double shield, but now they use that amp. They want to speed up, and they're trying to take Fifi out. Where Roy's able to find out Kemi. It was a sacrifice well made, but that off tank is not going to be there for the continuation. So that immortality that just got melted down, that's not too great. We see Exodus now pop out their very own, and now they have a window. So everyone on the side of MI6, look at them, they want to play inside of a corner. They want to hide in LOS, try to take some cover while Royce is far in the back taking pot shots. That window now being popped out, looking to melt people around. Doesn't get placed fully out, but it is able to start putting some pressure back onto Dad. He gets that stun, and he's looking. His shield's dangerously low, but he's going to be able to charge, and the Gravitic Flux pops is going to be able to hit a good majority while the Molten Core is placed in front of the point, but that Shatter making sure to kill anyone else off.
I mean, that was just some gorgeous rotations coming out from the side of Exodus. Being able to take that high ground. It's a GOATS era rotation, and it's old, but it gets the job done. Taking that high ground, getting the cart to corner, that way you're making sure your cart progress is still A-okay, but you're taking all that space. As you saw, there was really only one fight for the defense there, and they didn't get the fight they wanted either for the side of MI6. Now the high ground's being contested again, and the Dragon's out.
My goodness, that Dragon made so much space. Just look as Exodus are just able to start walking all over the rest of MI6, and they are just looking like scared chickens.
I mean, yeah, this is a role reversal and a half, and this is just kind of a team mentality. It's very clear to me already, based on the rotations that they're playing. Exodus is comfortable on Rialto. You can see why they picked it. You're seeing the double shield action now. Andrew over to the Reinhardt, trying to Rein diff once more, but this...
It's not looking that great comparably. That Demon Bomb even placed so far down. They are going to be able to kill Monarch with it, and the Reamback Shinsei's in a whole new attitude, and Exodus look revitalized.
5 minutes going into third. You definitely feel the momentum. They're rotating their ults beautifully. You know, you're not over investing too much. You still have the Shatter, the Blossom, as well as the Beat, just to try to make sure you live through the Gravitic Flux, even though you know Fifi doesn't have it online yet. Meanwhile, on the side of MI6, they've swapped their comp so many times that they're just kind of lost. They don't have anything to do.
I'm sorry, but did Dad just 380 Shatter style on and? Oh my goodness, the Death Blossom popping out. Monarch may be able to find out Dad, but they're able to push forward. Laser is able to be shut down by Roy and Shinsei's mech. That's going to slop that momentum. No more of a snowball, but my goodness, I got so surprised by Dad just going with that risk.
I mean, you finally got the shutdown. Oh, this poor stagger onto Shinsei. This is the one downside to D.Va. Just takes forever to die. Finally, the baby will die, but that's more time burned off the clock. But MI6, they needed that time burner right there. They needed to stagger that D.Va because there's still 4 minutes on this clock, and it's nowhere near set to done because Dad on this Reinhardt looking revitalized. Andrew finally on the back foot in this Reinhardt duel for a change as they path upwards here.
They're going to be moving out. They are split from the Lucio and Creep, but the High Noon combined is going to be eaten. That Gravitic Flux does a majority of the damage, and that's going to help start melting them down. Soundbarrier a little bit too late while Dad's pushing in. He's eventually going to be going down, and the rest of MI6, they're looking a little clean while they have 2 ultimates in the back burner.
Yeah, I feel like that beat was unfortunate from Yosemite. Simply because, you know, your team was a little bit split off. You didn't want to use it while there were some people behind cover because you want to make sure everyone got to the beat. And unfortunately, that means that it came down way too late. People were already falling. And now the ult economy is finally back in the favor of Exodus. You have Shatter. The Blizzard is going to be huge here. It's going to be on Shinsei to probably eat that one as they're taking the fight on high ground here with the early window.
Axel pops it out, helps kill, and they use that Shatter, and they're kind of wanting to ignore that Blizzard. Nobody's frozen inside of it, and Dad's looking to clean up the rest of MI6. Look how Fifi and the Swifters just had to retreat.
Yeah, but Roy getting a late pick onto the laser on the Kree, that might be good enough because there's going to have to be this stall fight here. But Shinsei has the D.Va Bomb. That's going to be hard to work around, but they're using the beat to start. That's going to be their hope.
Yeah, that D.Va Bomb gets placed out. Monarch throws out the Immortality just to be able to help the people who are moving forward. Roy, who was in the backline, it's eventually going to get picked off, and Swifters is being stunned and eventually focused down. Now it's a 4v6. That Shatter combined with the Gravitic Flux is going to be absolutely massive. Everyone who lands down is Ant's own playing toy, and they're going to be able to stop that push.
That was absolutely a beautiful Shatter at right as they were all getting picked up too, so that way everybody stayed down. No way to throw down a lamp when you're stunned to the ground, as well as just the damage. Reinhardt 85 damage swing hitting all 5 members, plus everyone's already cut in half. You know, that's simple math. It equals dead. And you know, this is also becoming a holdable defense for the side of MI6. They have their window coming into this next fight. It's going to be big, but they're going to have to worry about this Deadeye from Laser absolutely creating so much space already.
Yeah, look at that, used with the speed boost, it gets 2! That's gonna give so much room, especially with Kemi on the Mei. We see them moving in that window, popping out from MI6. They're looking to finish people off, but that Blizzard's gonna start capturing targets. Fifi's now frozen, and they're not looking too great. The Sound Barrier even used, combined with the Shatter, is gonna try to help secure this team fight, but 3 people are coming back into the fight. So if there's gonna be found out, and is immediately gonna be melted down. So Woolie's really the last person on the point, but after they just looked at him for a bit, Dad's gonna say, it's my turn. I've got it, and we've capped with 1 minute and 17 seconds.
And that's a phenomenal turnaround from the side of Exodus. You know, I don't know if it was the DPS swap, if that's what you needed, but I feel as though in that round, Dad on the Rhine just looked alive, absolutely electric. You know, always taking the correct space, holding shield when needed to protect the Deadeyes, you know, getting these fat Shatters off cooldown. I mean, that's exactly what we've been expecting from this player, and so we're hoping that this can continue. And you know, now you've put yourself in a really good position because MI6, they have to cap the entire map just to force overtime rounds.
Yeah, so this is for the first time we're seeing MI6 now on the back burner of the match. I do think they have kind of a big uphill to fight. Kemi just looks so clean when it came to that Mei and just kind of their aggressiveness. And now they look at this, Exodus is doing exactly what you hoped for, the close hold.
I mean, yeah, the close hold is always super nice simply because you get that like extra fight, right? So you ideally want to fight right outside the spawn door, then you're gonna get a fight right here at the corner where you would normally fight, and then finally you get a third fight right at the arches before the point is capped. That's kind of your goal, right? But that might be a big fat finger with the lamp being used extremely early, accidentally from Axopaxel. That could turn the tide of this first fight already.
Yeah, and that's going to be around 14 seconds until he gets it back. Luckily, they are holding low, and they're waiting their turn. Now they kind of want to brawl into the rest of MI6, but MI6 are being a bit respectful. They're taking their time. They know their win condition, especially if Dad's so low. He's taking so long to get healing, but now they want to move in. The Immortality is there to peel them out, and is going to be taken down by Shinsei, while Swifters is able to find out Laser. They are even somewhat, but Swifters is here on the Hanzo, able to deal so much damage, while Fifi is just trying to escape the rest of the poke. And it looks like while there are only 3 people left, they are still trying to push as far as they can.
And that's actually the worst kind of timeline what just happened, because Roy was pushing the cart pretty much that whole time. The reason you fight there is because you have to hold on the cart, but when the cart was just getting progress, you became all stagger picks. You almost were like a baby diva, so you've thrown away that 3-fight potential. You're now only going to get this last fight here at the choke, and you're going to have to deal with Gravitic Flux, and you have nowhere near a beat online.
Look at that pop out. The Dragons making sure that nobody can retreat. Able to find out Axopaxel, while Swifters are going to be traded in the end. That Shatter's going to be absolutely massive, combined with the Sound Barrier. That gives them more than enough room to walk in and finish off and. So the rest of MI6 are somewhat split in an unfortunate position.
I mean, that Shatter absolutely coming up clutch when it was needed. You know, the whole team was split. It was pretty much doom and gloom there. You were all caught up by the Dragon. You lost your main healer in Axopaxel, but as I just said, Dad with the Shatter, getting absolutely everybody on the ground, getting the picks needed. And, you know, going forward into this next fight, you kind of have to start imagining what your defense is going to look like. You have to know what they're going to have online on the other side. You have to prep for this Earth Shatter from Andrew. You're going to be able to block it, or just make sure you don't get an off angle. Meanwhile, Wooly's going to have this beat, and as we saw, Yosemite had the aggro beat there, but they're cutting me off with this early Deadeye.
That High Noon's going to drop down, break the shield of Dad, and that's just a free Shatter. It's a little unfortunate, but that's why Shinsei's got to be a bit more proactive when it comes to eating that single bullet.
Yeah, eating even one bullet there is enough, but maybe the defense matrix is down, used earlier, forced in a different way. We don't know just yet. We could surely watch a replay and figure it out, but we're going into second point, 4 minutes on the clock, and we're seeing this once again, this kind of control for high ground. This is always where you want to fight on second point, kind of like Eichenwald. You don't really care about the point too much. You more care about making sure you have control of this high ground, because it opens up so many avenues.
Now they're getting ready. That payload's going to be able to move forward. They're on the high ground, but it looks like they want to split. Yet the Sound Barrier gets used, and they're all wanting to move in. The Death Blossom is going to, however, end that fight very quickly. Even if the Gravitic Flux is used, there's not much to follow it on it. Fifi does get the pick on Kemi while Swifters is moving that payload, but we see them go back. Fifi still is able to block out Dad's Shatter. It's a bit unfortunate, so he charges in, going inside the back, while Monarch is using that window. They're bringing it back somewhat. I thought the fight was over, but it's far as Shin is able to get the mech back. Now hiding inside the small room, wants to try, but he gets headshot of his Swifters, who saw it. So unfortunate. And now they're moving in, using that drag. It's going to do a majority of the damage to Dad, who gets the immortality, but Axopaxel is going to get shattered, yet On was just too far up, so Swifters has to finish the job. Now the Sound Barrier from Yo is going to be helping them move in for a tiny bit with that window. It's going to be the real killer for them as they just retreat.
Yes, indeed. Finally calling a breaks. Both teams were pretty much just chanting winnable, throwing ult after ult in, and finally both teams have reached the empty on the ult meters. Fifi, probably the closest person in the lobby, 62% to that Gravitic Flux, which could be a big ult, but there's really no ult, so now you're kind of back into this poke war for high ground, right? No real advantage, as they're going to try to run over the Reinhardt. Force to the low ground is Andrew.
Yeah, look, they're putting in some pressure, but all of them are leaving the point. We see him as Ash and the Diva just go to try to help them out, so Kemi gets found. They've split themselves solely to get Roy, but this may have cost them more in the end, because Fifi finds out Dad, they've lost their Reinhardt to be able to protect them from the kind of incoming damage. So Swither may be going out from Axopaxel. It looks like MI6 are now making that mistake, as they want to go immediately after Shinsei's in their back, being able to DMAC and finish that off as Kemi returns into the fight. Look at at them now using that Gravitic Flux. Really only finds 2 out. They pop that Shatter. It does get blocked, and they're just continuing to move forward. The Bob's there now. That may be able to help them out comparably with the window as Wooly gets traded. Same with Axel. Paxel's going down. The Shatter's there, but Emmy is there to finish off Andrew. The High Noon gets popped, not being able to find much, but the Death Blossom is there to clean up anything. What a messy fight, and yet it still tries to go back and forth.
Again, both of these teams, they just felt it was winnable, so they never gave it up and invested every ultimate. Like, I don't feel as though that Death Blossom was needed as all. You pretty much already had it secured. It was all but done officially, and now that you've burned out both ult banks, it's back again to this high ground where everybody's going to fight. And these teams are both splitting each other, just trying to get point control. It's just very sloppy, honestly, for both teams.
Definitely agree. Slithers gets picked out so early in this fight, yet it looks like MI6 still want to try to commit a bit of poke. Swifters does have the dragons. That's kind of the win condition combined with Fifi's Gravitic Flux. I feel like that's what you look out for.
Yes, indeed. You're always looking out, and it's apparently going to be the Flux to start there.
They pop it combined with the dragons from behind. Axel Paxel's going to be the first one going out, being able to stun out Dad and start working forward. That combination is going to be doing so much as Sensei pops that bomb, not being able to find much, but Laser is able to finish off Swifters, who just wasn't a bit prepared for it. Kemi does go down before they can really commit too much into this fight, and Shinsei as well. So they now have a chance to continue this point, but they will have possibly a lesser time bank than Exodus.
I mean, yeah, unless they snowball it perfectly, I think it's guaranteed to have a lesser time bank. But, you know, it's all about finishing the map, right? You can worry about the time bank later. You can worry about your disadvantage later because there's no draws here. So you have to be thinking about this next fight. You can worry about the time bank later. Swifters over to the May pick now. Honestly, I don't see the value that it could get, especially when you're not able to pocket your Reinhardt with something like a bubble or a Diva Matrix to keep him alive through anything the May wants to do, but it'll be interesting. Oh, and Dad.
He pulls the bumper, Shatter immediately just turns the corner and hits it. Both sound bearers are going to be committed to help them out, but it looks like Dad's gone first. Now the High Noon being used from Roy. Fifi's going to be going down, so they need to get that trade onto Shinsei to help it out. While Roy's able to finish out Kemi, they have a Bob, so it's still technically a 5v5 in some form of scenario. They're waiting inside their little cubby. They want to take their time. They don't want to fight that Bob. They're a little scared, little chicken, as I like to say, but now they move in. He's gone. Dad is going to need to be the front line, but that's why you use that May. Look how they isolate off Dad, and now they're going to be able to push forward to get the free Shatter onto Shinsei back. So Kemi's just trying to put in some inner pressure, be the main tank they've always needed, so they can be able to build up that Death Blossom, but so much poke is coming in from Fifi. It may not be the best, combined with the Gravitic Flux being built up now. They managed to finish off the Lucio, so no sound barrier being built up, and they're slamming down, being able to cap the point with a minute, comparably to that 1 minute and 49 seconds for Exodus. This is looking in favor of one team rather than another.
Yes, indeed. A little bit scrappier, but MI6 manages to get through the map. And now here comes the question, right? You only have a minute. What do you do? Do you try to pull out something cheesy like a Bastion comp? Do you try to just relax and take it with what you know and hope that you get far enough to stop whatever the side of Exodus is able to get with a 149 time bank? Because at the end of the day, 49 seconds, it sounds like a lot, but if you play it right, that could just be only one fight. And, you know, one fight is definitely something you can take space on. Either way, both of these teams, I feel, should go for that early hold. Just make sure you're holding on cart this time instead of trying to play to live.
Yeah. So, I always feel that in these types of moments, this is where your blood pressure starts going in. Because I think not everyone kind of understands that when that overtime ends on this type of scenario, it's gone. It's zip, and you have to stay on that point. So playing perfectly is what's important. And I'm more worried because Exodus have been looking great, but I'm more worried now because they're going into this type of scenario, so they need to do the best that they can.
Yes, indeed. You can't ever crack under the pressure, and we're seeing the spawn hold attempted again for the side of Exodus, but again, I feel as though they have to make sure they're holding on card. They've pushed out, they make sure they have one person on card at all times, and that's the most important thing. Just burn the time off the bank. It's okay if you die here.
Yeah, Roy's able to find out Laser for this fight, and that May is so crucial. Look how they wall off Dad, so the immortality has to get used very early for them. And someone who's spawn holding, you need that as much as you can. Dad and the rest of them are going to be picked off, and this is going to allow them to start getting as much control of the point as they wanted.
Yes, indeed, and a bit better there. Yost might went to the cart, made sure to stall it out. That way they weren't just getting free progress pushed. But Andrew already having this shatter built online as we're going to be entering the overtime any second now. I mean, it's going to be on Dad to block this one because this Rhine duel has been back and forth between the both of them.
Yeah, we're gonna need to see Andrew try to pull something out, pull a Chad, pull a bumper, make Dad try to feel like a kid. The shatter goes out, but into the May wall. It's not gonna be helping much, yet Dad is still gonna be found out. They're pushing in, the immortality's not there, but the Windows 4 MI6 is gonna be putting in a lot of damage. Swifter building up that May ult, gonna be useful when it comes to the next fight.
I mean, capping point A in overtime, that right there should in itself be enough, right? But you want to get it as far as humanly possible. If you can push this thing all 6 points, I mean, go for it. It just creates more and more pressure because all of a sudden, Exodus is now the ones on the back foot for the first time in this match. They're the ones that having to think, oh crap, we have pressure, we have a deadline to hit. And I mean, that pressure building with the fact that if you lose this map, you lose the series, as another pause being called for.
Wait, okay, it's a little bit of a delayed pause, so that was a bit annoying. But we are going to be seeing a pause, possibly a bit more lag coming from Axel Paxel. Luckily for this map, they haven't used up their pause time at all. So now, I want to kind of take a moment. I'm going to tell you the scenario, and I want you to tell me Exodus's kind of chance. I need a percentage, because MI6 not only have Blizzard, but Gravitic Flux and High Noon coming up on the Graviton Surge, while Exodus is prepared onto the high ground, and they're coming up on the sound barrier, and soon a Shatter. They really only have the window when it comes into this fight.
I mean, yeah, absolutely. And while the beat can get you through the Gravitic Flux, there's still the Deadeye to worry about. Roy can just put out damage, and so Shinsei is going to have to eat that. But Shinsei has the other problem of this Blizzard has to be eaten, otherwise Swifters will just freeze everybody up. And with how long the respawn timers take in overtime, it's it's just absolutely ridiculous. I think that if you do not eat this Blizzard or the Deadeye, one of the two, then you're looking at a 5-3 minimum here for Rialto.
I feel that's the scary part, is they have kind of two big ultimates right there. Two that you really need to eat if you're Shinsei, and you have the opportunity to, but if you drop your DM from one, then the other might stall it out, and it's kind of scary. And I'm more worried to see, because I feel Laser just hasn't had the room and this pressure to get kind of the value that they want. I mean, we've only really had technically one fight, and then we had a shatter into a May wall that was kind of funny, and that's where it ended. But they're playing on the high ground, and that's a position where Fifi is going to put a lot of pressure on. I don't know if Laser is going to have the room or the ability to make mistakes.
I mean, yeah, that's the issue, is you don't have that room anymore with the overtime. It's one fight here and done, and if for the offense at least, but for the defense, you need to end this as quickly as possible, because the further that payload gets, the smaller your minute 49 time bank looks for the side of Exodus, because you need to continue that advantage, because you need to try to snowball your way back into the series. And with how well this series started out for you, I mean, it's going to be very interesting to see how it goes.
I definitely agree. But once again, I feel like this is going to be a bit of a pause to where we'll leave you on a cliffhanger. So give us a couple seconds, a minute or two, while we wait for Axel Paxel's lag to end up. And make sure you stay tuned, because one of these teams is going to be getting off that payload. Back in. All right, welcome back, everyone. They immediately said R as we went to pause. They like playing games on us. Ha 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 ha.
Ha ha ha, definitely laughing. But, you know, we're back in it. It's okay. The poke on the high ground. The only person on cart is Wooly, so potentially you could try to force the Lucio off. That overtime witch, because it's been burning for so long, just boop him off for half of a second, and that should be more than enough to win the map.
Yeah, but the sound barrier is now built up. Swifters is gonna go down after. Blizzard gets dropped dead, and the Axel are found on it, while Roy's on the high ground. Combined with the sound barrier, that's more than enough room to start walking in. They do use the shatter. They want to shut down Sensei and Kemi, so Laser pops the high noon, trying to make something happen, but it's not looking good, and that 5th point's gonna be captured.
Dude, Fifi came up so clutch there. The Gravitic Flux to start that, the Rock to stun out of the Deadeye, the Sigma Eat to eat the Death Blossom damage. I mean, Fifi just absolutely did anything and everything to win that fight, and now, as we see 5-3, the cart's still pushing. That minute 49 may as well be at 1 minute at this point, because if Exodus even gets to this part of the map on their offense, it's gonna be an overtime.
It's a big pressure. The Diva Bomb going out combined with the Shatter. It's absolutely insane. The 4K combined from Dad and Shinsei. I may have said Dad, and was doing a bit better than Dad a while ago, but Dad, his Shatters have just been absolutely insane.
I mean, I feel like every single time I compliment, you know, one off tank or one player on one team, the other player on the other team, you know, I was just getting off of telling Fifi how great that they were, and Shinsei was like, all right, I'll show you what a Diva Bomb really looks like, comboed it with that Shatter absolutely perfectly, and so it finally brings that payload to a halt. But the question is now for Exodus, can you get it there? You snowballed pretty hard on your offense. Can you do it again? Can you find that same magic to keep yourselves in the series?
Yeah, you kind of can't let those Shatters hit you. It's just gonna cost you fights like those where debatably you could have possibly held on for a bit. But now this is Exodus's final leap of faith, something they want to go in. Brawl v Brawl. I don't know, it does look like they want to hold close. They do want to waste as much time bank as possible, but Fifi has been looking so good on this Sigma. I don't know what I can say about this. I feel it's just going to be up to chance to an extent.
I mean, absolutely, risks have to be taken for this team. And I mean, you kind of want to burn the time bank, right? It's a minute 49. You don't even really care if you lose first point if you're the defenders here, simply because you still have all of second to defend. And if you can just burn out the entire clock by sitting on the payload right here and now, I mean, that's exactly what you need.
Yeah, look at them. They're already rotating underneath them, so the sides are swapping. The Maywall gets used just to ignore them. And Woolie's down, so they can't even speed boost on. Look at Exodus as they moonwalk all the way back. And that boop's going to be hitting Swifters. They're still trying to fight this. Fifi is able to find out the Lucio, but at this point, it's all over.
I mean, yeah, and that's a lot of ult charge that just got donated to Exodus. But the upside being it didn't really get donated to any one place. You know, nobody's super far ahead of their counterpart, like having an ult online already. So that's going to be kind of what you look forward to, as now with just under a minute on the clock starting now, we're going to see the second fight here on point A, and another team really wanting to start this fight because nobody has an advantage.
Yeah, they pressured them off the high ground, but Dad's gonna be caught out. They throw the immortality. They manage to save Dad from a deadly situation, but the brawl's continuing in and does get frozen in, but he's able to start retreating back and get some peel, but the Shatter goes out. It's gonna be blocked. Dad still gets melted down, unfortunately enough, so the rest of Exodus, they need to start backing up and retreat. The window still gets invested. They want to fight it. It's winnable for them. They manage to find out Fifi, and they're looking to find anyone else, and Drew is going to be picked off. It's always winnable when it comes to Exodus, as they're looking for the rest of High Noon, finding out, being able to get Roy, and the rest of MI6 are kind of just stuck without a reason to push in.
I mean, absolutely, they're going to go ahead and fall back, and they have a lot of ultimates now to worry about from Exodus. You know, this Blizzard obviously can be big from Kemi. We've seen it before. Dad Shatter not used in that previous fight, as well as the beat to live through Fifi's Gravitic Flux. I mean, as we're entering overtime, despite having to get all the way through point B and into point C here, Exodus, they have the ults to do it, and they just got to time their fights right.
Yeah, that sound barrier is going to be the biggest ult when it comes to any form of these. Look at how they take over the high ground, but they have the Diva with the Lucio just in case if anything switchy happens. They still want to wait. They're a little too scared to kind of fully push in, as And is just worried that Dad's going to pop out a Shatter. He does, and it looks like they were just waiting far enough back to where Dad couldn't get much. Gravitic Flux does get popped. It finds out the Lucio, so the sound barrier isn't going to be used just yet, but it gets popped after Dad dies. Swifter does get found out, and both of the Blizzards are being used. Shinsei's caught on the point, but they're being able to block out that Diva Bomb, while Roy manages to find out Axel Pack, so they've lost their main priority of a support, and they've lost Laser, who was the TPS, and that Shatter may as well be the finish in the grave. Shinsei is doing his best just to stall on that point, but we see Dad, he says no, there is no GG. It's not over till it's over, as I'm holding this point and stalling as much as I can. There's going to be no one who can try to touch, and we're going to be seeing Exodus's triumphant victory not come as MI6 managed to win it out.
Yes, indeed, and that's the clean 3-0. MI6 coming out. I mean, that first offense on Rialto, we thought that was the turning point there for Exodus, but unfortunately, in the end, it just was not enough. But I mean, shatters like this from both Rhines back and forth all series, it makes it clear that despite being a 3-0, both these teams can contend with each other at this level.
Yeah, I definitely agree. But please give us a good second. We're going to be getting someone in for the interview, and I really hope you stayed in tune because we may be getting some spice for this.
Yes, indeed, the spicy trash talk. You always love to see it.
Are we on break? Welcome back, everyone. It is time as we now are joined by MI6's Optank Fifi, who had an amazing performance. Fifi, how are you doing today?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Yeah, I'm gonna let Megalash take it over because I feel they're gonna have some amazing questions for this time.
I mean, there's so many different questions to ask. You performed great all series as well as your team as a whole, just doing great. But I mean, there was that one fight on Rialto I have to ask you about. It was in the first overtime phase. You as Sigma, you proceeded to stun a Deadeye, eat up Death Blossom, and then on top of that, you started that whole fight with a Flux. You were just doing everything in one fight, pretty much everywhere at once, almost like what you would expect from a diva. I mean, how do you just manage all of that, and how do you feel knowing the amount of impact you were able to have in that fight?
Fifi?
Fifi?
Got a bit of the Axel Paxel kind of lag. Mike broke the moment they tried. Oh my goodness, this isn't looking good.
Well, I mean, if it wasn't scuffed
Oh
with a
my god,
deal,
hello?
hello.
There you go. Answer.
Okay.
So anyway,
Well,
were you able to hear the question?
yeah, I heard the
Okay.
question. Um, it felt really good being doing a lot, especially on Rialto. Um, because Sigma fun character, and when I'm just getting to M1 into a brawl comp and doing just lots of damage, it's really fun. Um, and for that fight, um, the Kree just kind of stood in front of me and I rocked him. And I think the Blossom was kind of a desperation thing, and I just had my eat and I was right there, so I was just able to get it.
Alrighty. I mean, absolutely awesome. And going into that series, did you have any like certain set plays you were prepping for? Obviously, both of these teams coming in today were undefeated. So did you feel as though you needed to bring your extra A game, or were you just that confident about the win today?
Oh, I'm sure the rest of my team had plenty of set plays, but I was on vacation for the last week, so I hadn't played Overwatch in a whole week, but I still think I did pretty well.
I mean, absolutely. You did impressive. If you truly haven't played in a week, I mean, the things you were doing were lights out on Sigma. I mean, that's all I really have to ask about. Just a phenomenal series from you guys. Intel, do you have any questions?
I do. I have a bit of a personal one
Uh-huh.
because I remember during the draft, you were not found out. Eventually, you find your home in on MI6 when we got the new teams in. And I want to say you had an amazing performance today. So, does that kind of bring back some form of confidence? How do you feel knowing, like, you come into MI6, you weren't drafted before, and you're able to help your team bring in a victory?
It feels really good. I know a lot of people didn't really expect much from us and Papega Parrots because we were made of like teams entirely made of people who went undrafted, and I think we're proving a lot of people wrong. I think the hardest games are still to come, but I think we're off to a really good start.
Yeah, I'm very glad. And I guess I have to say is while MI6 may not be the strongest, at least for right now, as you continue on, what are ways that you're just trying to help prepare yourselves and kind of get ready to go up against other teams without kind of drastically leaking things?
It's just a lot of like practice, right? Like scrimming fairly often, just playing comp, and we have a very cool coach that was recently added, and I think he's going to make a big difference.
I'm really glad to hear that. So, is there anything you want to be saying to everyone listening in, even though you signed with a kind of British team?
The last thing I want to say is thank you, Andrew O, for being very cool and epic, even though he got MTD'd by a DPS player.
Oh, that's beautiful. So, if you have nothing left, you're free to go enjoy your day.
Thank you. You too.
Yep. But I just want to say thank you everyone for listening in for this stream. It was definitely one to kind of hold close and people will be watching back for a while. Definitely a bit of an upset. Some things are a little kind of curious. Either way, if you're interested in staying in tune, you can follow League Zero on the Twitter or you could hit that little heart on this Twitch stream as Noct Plays has consistently been streaming for us at League Zero. So give some love, show some support, and either way, you can check out both of the casters' Twitters on kind of the handlebar here, whatever it is. Make sure we always love to communicate with people. But we'll see you next time when it comes to League Zero.